Welcome to Through a Glass Darkly Radio. You're listening to us on United Public Radio. The intro song was Mark of the Doomslayer by Karl Casey at White Bat Audio. Got that right the first time ever, I think, without having to read my little cheat sheet. So, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully, you can all hear me. I don't see any complaints yet, so that must mean that you can. So tonight, sorry, I'm reading your comments. Yes, and now is the time on Sprockets when we dance. Yes, I remember that clearly. Let's see. All right, this one's going to be a little bit shorter because I set it up yesterday and I was, it was good enough. At least the prepared portion. And the reason I keep doing these is that they actually are or have been performing better than my actual interviews, which never happens. Usually the live streams get a lot fewer views and, all that good stuff. But this in particular, the formula of having like an alien face and then just doing a deep dive on every species, it just works. I don't understand it. Most of it is, just based on research that's out there. Some of it's speculative, but people appear to be enjoying these. So people are never wrong. Let's see. So Gray Owl's asking a question for Sean. I watch this live stream always, rarely missing it. So why do I get nary a notice from YouTube? But hell, they flood me with vetted videos. You want the real answer? Because I'm white and the other guy's not. That's why. So they get extra points, apparently. Let's see. All right, thank you, everyone. Sorry, I shouldn't be that blunt, but that's how YouTube rolls. They care about your demographics for a reason. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh, maybe he's doing something I'm not. Who knows? I didn't mean to have like a very I would probably tell Hecklefish to shut the F up, and then he would never talk again. I would break Hecklefish. I'm positive of that. But all right, let's get started on this weird and wild subject we have tonight. All right, so without further ado, today we venture into, and again, for folks who are joining us the first time, I generate a prompt or I create my own prompt and I ask AI to do a deep dive on a particular topic. There's some back and forth, asking me questions, etc. And then it generates a script. Okay. So this is the only live stream where I do this, but I like people to know that so that, some people don't like that and I understand it. With my fiction, I would never do anything like this because it's not, it's supposed to come from me and it does come from me. But with this sort of thing, it's entertainment and it makes me a lot more efficient and I'm a busy person. So take it as you will, but never say that I'm deceiving or lying. Like, I'm to tell you straight up how this is produced so that you can decide. Let's see. I'm just going to get through a few more of these. Phantasm style score. I don't know which one that is. Interesting. When you watch a 1997 doc on Eyes on Cinema, you see just how far we have not come. That's fair. All right, here we go. All right, today we ventured into one of the strangest corners of UFO lore, the alleged mantid or mantid beings. These are the so-called praying mantis aliens reported by UFO abductees and whistleblowers over the past several decades. If you've never heard of them, it might sound unbelievable. Towering insect-like creatures reportedly involved in human abductions and otherworldly programs. Yet experiencers around the world have described remarkably similar beings: tall, long-limbed insectoids with an uncanny resemblance to Earth's praying mantis. In this episode, we'll shift through those accounts, ranging from harrowing abduction stories to speculative spiritual lore. We'll describe what these mantids supposedly look like and how they behave, explore their role alongside the infamous gray aliens and reptilians, and discuss the messages, telepathic or otherwise, that witnesses attribute to them. Along the way, we'll consider whether these entities are interdimensional visitors, spiritual archetypes, or simply products of the human imagination. By the end, you can judge for yourself what to make of the mysterious mantid aliens. So let's get started. If you encountered a mantid being, you'd never mistake it for anything else. Witnesses consistently describe these entities as tall, often 6 to 9 feet, with an insectoid, humanoid in form. Their bodies are extremely thin and elongated, with a segmented exoskeleton, sometimes noted to have an oily or reflective sheen. Their limbs look almost like extra jointed sticks, arms and legs with additional joints that bend in ways that human limbs definitely do not. These beings have long, narrow faces with long, narrow, large eyes, sharply slanted upward and outward in an almost narrow V position, giving them an almost insect-like appearance, explained one experiencer in a report documented by the Hybrids Rising research team. The head of a mantid is often described as a triangular or insect-like head with huge wraparound compound eyes, usually solid black or dark brown on the sides. Many experiencers literally compare the face to that of a giant praying mantis insect, sometimes with small mandibles or mouth parts visible. The neck is thin and sometimes seen as slightly elongated, connecting to narrow shoulders and a spindly torso. Some witnesses even report that these beings can rotate their heads nearly 180 degrees, observing the room behind them without moving their body. Most mantids seen by witnesses have 2 arms and 2 legs, walking upright like a human, not the 6 limbs of a normal insect. However, their hands are often said to have only 3 long fingers or claws, and their forearms sometimes held in a praying mantis posture with razor-sharp, barbed edges like the grasping limbs of a mantis. Abductees have described claw-like digits that end in pincers or stiletto points. Not ideal for a handshake. Their coloration varies. Many reports describe green or brown exoskeletons, much like a garden mantis. Others have encountered black, white, even golden mantis beings. Simon Parkes, a former British councillor who claims lifelong contact with mantids, suggests that different colors might denote different ranks or roles in their society. In fact, witnesses often note that these beings wear clothing or cloaks, especially during onboard encounters. Long flowing robes of various colors are commonly described, sometimes with high collars. According to Parkes, a purple robe is a sign of the highest status among mantids, the leaders in charge. In other cases, mantids appear unclothed, simply exhibiting their natural exoskeletal body. Despite their somewhat frightening appearance, many experiencers report an aura of intelligence around these beings. The large, unblinking eyes and precise movements give the impression of a highly evolved creature, constantly observing and analyzing. As we'll see, it's not just their looks that make mantid aliens memorable. It's also what they allegedly do when humans encounter them. Accounts of abductions involving mantid beings range from deeply frightening to strangely reverent. In many classic UFO abduction cases, people recall these insectoid figures present as overseers or leaders during the experience. Abduction researchers like Dr. David M. Jacobs have noted that alongside the small gray aliens so commonly reported, witnesses occasionally see a taller figure that appears to be higher rank, often described as insect-like, resembling a praying mantis. This mantid being typically stands back from the examination table or procedure, observing everything. Jacobs writes that this creature stands back, observes the abduction proceedings, and may issue directions to the taller beings, implying a chain of command with the mantis-like figure at the top. Other aliens on board, like the shorter grays, act almost subservient to it. In fact, the consistency of this superior role across cases led Jacobs to hypothesize a hierarchical hive society, a downward flowing chain of command from the insect like beings to the shorter gray aliens. In other words, the mantis entities might be the ones ultimately in charge of the abduction agenda. Many abductees have corroborated this dynamic. They describe small gray humanoids, the worker drones, doing the hands on tasks like collecting samples or tending to equipment, while a tall mantis like figure watches with an air of authority. The mantis being is sometimes seen given instructions either verbally, in an unknown language, or telepathically. As one research team noted, they appear to be at the higher, if not the highest end of the ET hierarchy, since they are almost always described as overseeing the abduction procedure process. It's worth noting how outlandish this sounds. Why would anyone imagine a giant bug directing an abduction? Abduction researcher John Carpenter once pointed out the absurdity, and thus the curious authenticity of these reports, asking, why would anyone imagine a large bug directing an abduction experience? Is this something we would hope for or desire to see? Carper noted that subjects consistently sense a higher level of wisdom and function in the mantis type entity. The very strangeness of a human mind conjuring a 7-foot praying mantis overlord lends weight for some to the idea that experiencers are reporting what they truly perceived, not merely dreaming or fantasizing. So, what do these mantids actually do during an abduction? Often, they are described as observing and guiding. Many abductees say the mantid will rarely perform the physical examinations itself. Those are left to the grays, but it might step in for more specialized tasks. In Dr. Jacobs' findings, the mantid-like being examines abductees only infrequently and most often engages in staring procedures, where it gazes intently at the person as if probing their mind. When it does communicate, it tends to be more substantive or informative than the simpler reassurances given by the smaller aliens. Abductees often remark on the intensity of the mantid's gaze, those huge wraparound eyes looking into them, and many feel that this being can peer into their thoughts or soul during the encounter. Some encounters are indeed quite terrifying. British ufologist Philip Kinsella, for example, described being abducted in 1989 by reptilian-looking aliens, while a mantid being oversaw the procedure. He was restrained on a table when a device was brought toward his eye. Kinsella recalled in horror a green light shot directly from the needle and into my right eye. I could see all the veins from my eye. I then felt something stick into my skull. The praying mantis figure simply watched as this painful experiment was conducted, looming over him. Such reports give the impression of cold clinical curiosity, as if the mantids view us as laboratory specimens. In fact, many abductees have likened the setting to a cosmic laboratory, with the mantids as lead scientists instructing their gray assistants to carry out exams, extract samples, or even perform surgeries. However, not all encounters come across as cruel. Some people report the Mantids in a more benevolent light, even during abductions. A case from 1963 involved an experiencer named Linda Porter, who under hypnosis recalled being taken aboard a craft and encountering a praying mantis about 8 feet tall in a very odd room. She was shown what seemed like experiments on human bodies in cylinders, and even abstract concepts involving the human soul, as if the being was trying to impart some knowledge to her. In the moment, she was terrified, yet the mantid did not physically harm her. Some years later, reflecting on it, she wondered if it was teaching or demonstrating something about life and consciousness. Indeed, a number of contactees describe mantid beings as almost teacher-like or priest-like. They note an unexpected sense of calm or gravity when the mantid is present. Many abductees report that despite the shock of seeing a giant insectoid, they felt a telepathic message urging them not to be afraid. One experiencer said her mantid guide was very kind telepathically, reassuring her that everything would be all right and encouraging her to stay calm. This being even told her that she was a special person who would really make a difference here on Earth, as if giving a positive affirmation or mission statement. It's a startling contrast. In some stories, the mantid is an emotionless surgeon, and in others, it almost behaves almost like a compassionate counselor. One consistent theme across mantid encounters is telepathic communication. Nearly all experiencers say the mantids speak directly into their mind, rather than using audible speech. Abductees often describe it as receiving a thought or impression that translates into words in their own head. This telepathy can convey not only words, but also feelings or images. For instance, a person might suddenly feel a wave of calm or the emotion of sympathy coming from the being, even as it stares at them. A 2014 Coast to Coast AM interview with Dr. David Jacobs noted that aliens, including mantids, have telepathic abilities. They can transfer data into someone's mind, sometimes dumping large amounts of information or images in an instant. This aligns with many abduction reports where the experiencer is shown visions or taught things without any spoken dialogue. While they use telepathy with humans, mantids do seem to have a language of their own. Several witnesses have heard these beings making strange clicking or chirping sounds, presumably communicating with each other. One abductee described a moment during her abduction when the praying mantis turned its head toward the hooded one and made a series of high-pitched clicking sounds. I sensed this one was the one in command. It's as if the mantid was giving orders or asking a question in its own tongue. And even though the human didn't understand the clicks, she intuitively grasped that it was language. Others have reported mantids emitting a rapid series of clacks, buzzing, or insect-like chattering when speaking to another alien present. Researchers have likened these sounds to the communications of insects, like how real mantises or cicadas might sound if scaled up. Importantly, after making these sounds, the mantids often then telepathically convey meaning to the human, as if to ensure the person gets the message as well. The auditory clicks aren't their only sounds. Some contactees report a sort of trilling or humming noise associated with mantid beings. In one account, a young boy who believed the mantids were his family demonstrated a trilling, chirping sound he said the creatures make when happy. Intriguingly, Simon Parks, who claims extensive interactions with mantids, confirmed this detail from his own experiences, saying they emit a kind of trilling when happy with you, often when showing affection. He described how a mantid being would hold him above its head when he was a child and make a pleasant chirping trill, which he understood as a sign of warmth or pride. It's a rare glimpse glimpse of an almost emotional expression from entities that most would find terrifying. Aside from communication, many experiencers highlight the mantid's mental and psychic influence. People frequently say they felt paralyzed in the presence of a mantid, unable to move as if held by an unseen force. This could be a technology, some speculate a kind of neural paralysis beam, or perhaps a psychic ability to override our motor functions. In abduction lore, greys are also known to induce paralysis, so it's not unique to mantids, but mantids being present often coincides with that immobilization. Mantid beings also seem capable of inducing specific emotional states. They can heighten your fear, for example. Just the sight of a looming insectoid can trigger primal terror, but they can also remove your fear in an instant. Many abductees recount panicking initially until the mantid spoke to them telepathically. At that moment, a wave of calm washed over them, often described like the fear just melted away, which is a common phrase in many testimonials. One experiencer said the being, quote, put me at ease as if flipping a switch in my mind, end quote, eliminating her panic. It appears these entities have refined control over human neurological or emotional responses, whether through telepathy, hypnosis, or some advanced science. In a study by researchers Kathleen Martin and Denise Stoner, an astonishing 79% of abductee experiencers reported developing new psychic abilities after a contact experience. This suggests that whatever interaction occurs, often involving mantids and other ETs, something about it might be activating latent mental abilities in humans, or at least that the experience opens them up psychically. Those abilities range from increased intuition to full-blown telepathy or healing skills, according to the abductees. While we should take such claims with caution, it's clear the contact experience profoundly affects people's minds and perceptions. The mantids themselves are often described as masters of consciousness and frequency. Some sources portray them as working on levels beyond the physical, as if they are technicians of the soul or the psyche. One contactee was told by a mantis being that, quote, your body is not just a machine that your soul occupies for this lifetime. Quote, your body is just a machine that your soul occupies for this lifetime, underscoring a viewpoint that human consciousness is separate from the physical form. In that case, the being literally explained that they were going to, quote, get up under the hood and adjust the engine, end quote, of this person, meaning some kind of surgery or modification, but reassured him, quote, we can't steal your soul. We can't steal your consciousness. So quit screaming and let us do our job, end quote. By the way, I think that's Blitch. I think that's Blitch's quote. I think it came from my podcast. So yes, this is as an actual quote from an alleged encounter. More on that later. This illustrates a recurring claim that mantids have the ability to manipulate our bodies and minds at a fundamental level. Yet they imply respect for some kind of cosmic law that they cannot take our souls. It's heavy stuff, bordering on spiritual or religious terrain, coming from a bug-eyed alien in a bedroom at night. Beyond personal testimonials, some experiencers believe the mantids possess technology that operates on sound, light, and vibration rather than brute force. There are stories of mantid rooms filled with humming crystals or glowing orbs, and of devices that use harmonic tones to heal or induce altered states. One website dedicated to ET contact, for instance, claims, quote, the mantis beings are masters with vibrations of sound and color. They use this mastery to heal and create. They are artists of universal light, dancing through frequencies, end quote. While such descriptions veer into poetic New Age language, they align with abductee reports of mantids using sound frequencies to anesthetize or calm humans, and showing holographic projections to convey messages. On the spacecraft, some have seen Mantids operating panels that emit musical tones as if their machinery interfaces in frequencies rather than the buttons and screens that we use. Perhaps one of the most striking abilities attributed to Mantids is their apparent interdimensional nature, their existence in realities beyond the physical. Abductees often say the Mantids can appear or disappear suddenly, walking through walls or materializing by the bedside. This has led to theories that they move in and out of our three-dimensional space. They may have the ability to shift vibrationally, making themselves visible or invisible at will. In some encounters, a mantid is present one moment and simply blinks out the next. Such high strangeness makes people wonder, are these beings aliens from another planet, or are they entities from another dimension or spiritual plane? We'll dig into that next. All right, let's take a break to go through some comments because we're about halfway through, actually. All right, now I just got to find my spot where I left off. Okay, there we go. All right, Fast Mama Jamma. My bird got sick during the winter. I've been giving her apple cider vinegar and ginger. I don't know what to make of that, Fast Mama Jamma. Very, very nice pun, Overlander BC, who writes, this episode bugs me. Logan Clark, good to see you, my friend. Apple cider vinegar helped Fast Mama Jamma breathe better. I'll have to check that out at some point. Okay, so Gray Owl's writing, just to make sure this really is Sean and not his Illuminati robot replacement. Please answer the following question, Sean. Green or blue? What do you mean? Yeah, last week I said blue. So the answer doesn't change. Okay. Overlander BC is writing, imagine one day we go to the Mantis planet and their bugs look just like little people running around. That would actually be horrifying. It would be a little creepy. Tribble Nubbins writes, Mantids ride solar winds that elevate planetary consciousness through harmonic telepathy. They have tremendously long grundles. Hey, Mac, how you doing? Let's see. Okay, so in Mac's regressions, they wore capes purple and black. So high status, at least half of them. Okay. Okay. I'm rolling with Boner Dice is writing, I'm watching on my phone in bed where the magic happens. Yes, especially if you're rolling with Boner Dice. Scott, I wonder if there are roach beings. Well, if our thoughts manifest, you may have manifested them. Thank you, Scott. I'm sure our distant ancestors will thank you for your contribution to the inhabitants of cockroach thought forms in our universe. Okay, Fast Mama Jamma is writing. I saw a show with someone asking AI about human alien hybrids. It was a wild answer. Eric Davis said 4 types of aliens on Earth. That's right, and we've talked about 3. We have done this is the 3rd deep dive on 3 out of 4 of them. Now, next week we'll probably do Nordics. Yep. All right, I'm just skimming through some of these. Yeah, AI is getting better, Mac. They're definitely maybe AI is pulling it from my episodes. It's possible. Overlander BC is writing, I believe the Mantids exist, and I believe they're watching this show right now. There's been enough advance notice, which means they're also reading this chat. Yeah, if they're reading them, none of them ever visit me. So Mac writes short grays, tall grays, a reptilian, a mantid, and a purple cape. And the mantid was in charge, I'm assuming, Mac. Okay, so triple nubbins. So, like, when you hi-fi a mantis, what is your hand slamming into? The normal degree of an incredible force. You'd probably cut yourself because they have all these barbs. Yeah, that Mac writes they are scientist types, in my humble opinion. When I interviewed Terry Lovelace, they were kind of like healing types. They were doing some like procedure on him, and they got really annoyed that he was screaming. So Owen has a message for the Mantids. Hello, Mantis people. Did you know that on Earth we find it rude to send your work crew into bedrooms through portals? Can you guys try a new thing? Knocking on the door. Nelson Fernandez is writing, I wonder if these aliens are playing with their image. In Greek, mantis is a prophet or seer. Why not take on the. Yeah, it's possible too. It could just be that, these things are just engineering projections using human archetypes. So Overlander BC is writing, I believe the mantis mind is inside the Greys during abductions, controlling several at once, utilizing them as drones to accomplish the task risk-free. Yep. Yes, Fastman Majama. Hello, mantis beings. We are ready for contact. Okay. Under Fire 987. Yep, these things are very cold and uncaring by all reports. There may be good ones, though. All right, Fastman Pajama's writing, yes, the secret is not the type of aliens, but the type of humans. Finding the types of aliens will lead to the types of humans. My bird is telepathic. Okay. Thank you, Fastman Pajama. Okay, I probably can't. I watch other channels that don't say this, so I'm not going to say it. I actually got kicked off of Only F. Apparently, giant mantis queens terms of service. Yep. The simple dualism of good, bad will certainly not be sufficient. Gray Owl. Raven Moore 33 is writing, it was very telepathic. Bassman Pajama writes, my bird knows my wife is going to sneeze, and she sneezes right before. There's a lot of things in people's DNA or spirit than they know about for sure. Under Fire 987 writes, yeah, probably. There's a video in YouTube of a lady looking at cards and the bird saying what is in them. That's weird. And the birds fly within 1 foot of each other as one consciousness. Who knows? I know they're fast, though. At least that's Fast Member Gemma writes. Under Fire 987 writes, Gray Owl, there's a war between light and dark, good and evil, law and chaos. We don't have all the info, but the scale of things is far, far beyond Earth alone. Yeah, so Gray Owl writes, many people who bump into X-ray cats, myself included, will feel that there is some sort of reflective experience that often transpires, almost as if the X-rays sometimes manifest as mirrors of us. Yep, a mirror of ourselves. An Overlander BC, I wonder if the Blue Angels experience some kind of telepathy when they fly into tight formation, or they just practice a lot. Okay, Under Fire 987 writes to Gray Owl, I have had a Draco in my basement, and I am sure they are following me around at a different frequency. There's a lot I've learned about myself and the nature of reality. Everything is interconnected. Fast Memcha, maybe my bird can help me activate my telepathy. Okay. Gray Owl writes, I guess my thought is that it would be insufficient to determine who is by what appearance. Yeah. Under Fire 987 writes, there is depth and complexity though that for sure, where we are in reality is in a hostile area of reality. Astral projections tend to encounter evil entities. We are far from the light. If that helps explain why we encounter so many evil forces and entities, our false reality is just in a bad area of reality. Overlander BC writes, if anything in the physical realm is harvesting loosh, it's the Mantids. Under Fire 987 writes, the Grail, the flesh does not reflect the soul. A lot of research I have done and far too much evidence. The eyes are the doorway to the soul. That is where many will find answers. Okay, Gray Owl writes, I find most of the evil that I encounter is right here on good old Earth within our Yahtzee secretive security deep state control system. Yeah, they could be time traveling crickets. Yes. All right, I'm trying to blast through these because I want to get back to today's prepared comments. Yeah, Nelson Fernandez, a wise man did once said, quit your screaming. To which I replied, yes, Grail says. Mr. Supa Conducta, how you doing? Overlander BC writes, we never see the Nordics online because they use NordVPN. Fred asks, what do I think of the Skywatcher group? I'm very skeptical about it, let's just say. It feels like an op to me. That doesn't mean it's an op, but it feels like an op to me. All right, let's get back to it. All right, where do the Mantids come from, and why are they here? Oops, let me just do one more thing. The answers depend on who you ask, and none can be proven. Some UFO and whistleblower sources claim the Mantid beings hail from a distant part of the physical universe, while others suggest they are interdimensional travelers or even a species that has been here all along, unseen. One popular theory in fringe circles is that Mantids are an ancient spacefaring race from a star system far away. This cannot be real. Well, I'll just throw it out there and somebody can check me on it. A frequently cited origin is the Sombrero Galaxy, and that's M104, about 28 million light years from Earth. This idea likely comes from channeled or psychic sources. There's no evidence, of course, but it's an oft repeated detail in Mantid lore. Others tie them to more local stars. For example, some claim a connection between Mantid beings and the Antares system in our own galaxy. All right, I have to stop for a moment and look this up because it just seems like a hallucination. Nope, it's real. It's Messier Object 104, the Sombrero Galaxy. So I did not make that up, and AI did not make that up. A very different perspective is that the Mantids are not from our universe at all, but rather from a parallel dimension or void reality adjacent to ours. Experiencers who lean toward the spiritual interpretation describe these entities as operating on multiple planes. They may have physical forms, the ones people see in abductions, but also higher dimensional forms that are far more complex. In fact, some say the mantids exist simultaneously from 3D up to 9D, meaning from the physical third dimension up through astral and higher vibrations. One esoteric source puts it this way: mantis insectoid entities occupy a quasi physical space, which includes the astral realm, and are very connected to our imagination as it represents creation. This paints them almost like cosmic artists or architects operating in the blueprint layer of reality, not just the material layer. If that's too metaphysical, consider how these beings show up in altered states of consciousness. Research into the psychedelic DMT, dimethyltryptamine, has revealed that people smoking DMT often report encounters with intelligent entities, and among the most common are insectoid praying mantis-like creatures. A 2020 study noted that many DMT users consistently saw praying mantis alien brain surgeons in the hallucinations. Remarkably, a majority of these people came away convinced that the entities were real, independent consciousnesses, not just hallucinations. They described telepathic communication with these insectoids and even received messages or lessons. The parallels to alien abduction lore are hard to ignore. Telepathy, medical examinations, future predictions, spiritual insights, all features of abduction stories occurred in these DMT trips as well. Some scientists have speculated that perhaps alien abduction experiences could be explained by the brain releasing DMT in rare instances, essentially inducing an endogenous psychedelic experience. But others wonder if both abductees and DMT voyagers are tapping into an alternate reality where these mantid beings actually exist. Is it possible that mantids are ultra-terrestrials, beings from another layer of reality that humans occasionally access through altered states, near-death experiences, or UFO encounters? It's a fascinating, if unprovable, idea. Now turning to a more down-to-earth angle. What do the mantids want? Many abductees have been told, usually by the mantids or greys, that they are working on a genetic project. This often refers to the infamous hybrid program, the alleged creation of hybrid beings from human and alien DNA. Dr. David Jacobs and others believe the mantids are deeply involved in this. In fact, Jacobs stated that the praying mantis or insect-like ET beings are directing the hybridization program, essentially acting as the project managers of the whole enterprise. The purported goal: to produce hybrid creatures that can live here on Earth, perhaps to gradually integrate into human society or even take it over. Jacobs conjectures that the aliens, quote, are making hybrids so that they can come down and be here, end quote, possibly to take over our planet in the future. Mantids, in his view, are not benevolent space brothers. They are the masterminds of a long-term infiltration strategy utilizing hybrids. Other sources ascribe less slightly ominous motives, though still quite lofty. Some say the mantids are here to oversee not just a genetic program, but also human spiritual development. In one account, quote, the mantids are assisting and in many ways overseeing the Zeta Gray Reticulin hybrid program and human spiritual advancement project. They were asked by galactic councils to participate, end quote. This suggests the mantids might be part of some cosmic community, i.e., a galactic council, and were enlisted to help humanity evolve, both physically via genetics and spiritually via guidance. It's a far more benevolent spin than Jacob's invasion scenario. Indeed, the benevolent interpretation portrays Mantids as ancient guardians or watchers. Some contactees say these beings have been coming here for millennia to gently steer human evolution, perhaps even tinkering with our DNA in the distant past to nudge us toward intelligence. There are also those who claim the Mantids are deeply concerned with the human soul. Investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, known for researching UFO whistleblower testimonies, interviewed sources who believed the Mantids project wasn't about bodies, but about souls. Quote, the non-humans were studying the recycling of souls in and out of containers, end quote. One quote reads, essentially saying the Mantids were researching how human souls incarnate, live, die, and reincarnate. And then containers, obviously, meaning physical bodies. This almost casts the Mantids as metaphysical scientists trying to understand the nature of consciousness. It might sound far-fetched, but multiple abductees have independently reported being shown imagery or given lessons about souls, the afterlife, and the connection between body and spirit during their encounters with mantis-like beings. Even more down to earth, a strong recurring theme is the Mantids' concern, or at least interest, in Earth's environment. Many abductees across the decades have been shown dramatic holographic visions of Earth's possible future devastation. Nuclear war, ecosystems collapsing, apocalyptic scenes of climate catastrophe. Often a Mantid being is present during these visions, almost like a stern teacher showing a student the consequences of their actions. After a series of such images, the being will ask something akin to, quote, see what you are doing to your world, now do you understand, end quote. The consistency of this theme is striking. One experiencer in the 2000s said the Mantid she encountered, quote, knew the earth from ancient times and was working desperately to try and remedy the current environmental conditions that threaten the future of the human race, end quote. This individual got the impression that the Mantids felt some stewardship or responsibility toward Earth, perhaps having seen civilizations rise and fall here before. That aligns with other contactees who come away feeling a strong ecological message, as if the aliens were warning us to take better care of our planet. It's almost ironic, a giant bug-eyed creature lecturing humanity on environmental ethics. But it does resonate with the idea that if a species had been observing us for a long time, they might be alarmed at how we were treating our home. Now, before we move on, let's touch on an intriguing historical angle. Could it be that humanity has encountered Mantid-like beings long ago and recorded these meetings in myth, art, or religion? Some researchers have looked for the fingerprints of Mantis beings in ancient cultures. One of the most startling pieces of evidence comes from Iran, where in 2017, archaeologists discovered a prehistoric petroglyph, or rock carving, that looks uncannily like a part human, part praying mantis figure. A scientific paper in the Journal of Orthoptera Research documents this Iranian petroglyph, a 14-centimeter carving of a creature with 6 limbs and mantis-like forearms. Entomologists who studied it remarked, quote, the triangular head with big eyes and the grasping forearms are unmistakably those of a praying mantid, end quote. Yet it also seems to have humanoid elements, earning it the nickname, quote, squatting mantis man, end quote. The carving is estimated to be thousands of years old, and the researchers noted that mantis-like motifs appear in other regions, ancient art too. Quote, some were being considered as alien symbols, end quote. This raises fascinating questions. Did some shaman or artist in prehistory have a visionary encounter with a mantis-like entity? Was it just imaginative symbolism, or an early record of contact with something otherworldly that resembled a giant insect. In Egyptian mythology, there's a curious reference as well. It's said that in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a praying mantis is mentioned as a sort of guide to souls in the underworld. One source notes, quote, "In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a mantis appears as a guide through the underworld," end quote. Could this be a cultural echo of some being that guides human souls, much like modern experiences of mantids guiding or observing soul-related experiments? It's speculative but intriguing to draw lines between ancient insect guides and modern mantis aliens. Various African cultures also revere the mantis. The Bushmen of the Kalahari, the Sand People, have a creator deity, trickster figure, named Kagan, who often takes the form of a praying mantis in their legends. In their creation myths, humanity sometimes is said to have created or been created by a mantis being or born from a mantis. Could it be pure coincidence, or did ancient people ascribe divine significance to mantises because of some archetypal encounters? Even in New Guinea, the Asmat tribe used mantis imagery in headhunting rituals, associating the insect with the transition of life and death. The word mantis itself comes from Greek mantikos, meaning prophet or seer, as the Greeks thought the insect's prayer-like posture was indicative of wisdom. Across the world, mantises have been seen as omens or spiritual figures, which is interesting in light of the modern individuals perceiving mantid aliens as spiritually significant beings, either benevolent guides or malevolent watchers. Some fringe theorists have even suggested that the actual insect praying mantis on Earth might have a connection to these aliens, going so far as to propose that mantid extraterrestrials gifted Earth with the insect eons ago as a sort of calling card or experiment. There's zero evidence for that claim, but it shows how deeply the idea has permeated experience or lore. The praying mantis insect is almost seen as a miniature reflection of the great mantid beings, a clue that they've been here. All right, let's take another break and go back to the comments. This time I marked where I left off, although I don't see it. Okay. This is really annoying. Okay. All right, found it. Okay. Good Lord. All right, Skywatcher is this organization that claims they're able to summon UFOs and cause them to crash and capture them. So Fatima Majama writes, Danny Jones has a guy in the show or on his show that believes that Greer is a Mossad agent. Yeah, I saw that one. Who knows? Himala Max writes, are these things able to enter dreams? I wouldn't be surprised. Scott Ian. Now I'm picturing mantids wearing sombreros. Yeah, more Raven Moore 33. Gray Owl's explanation is a pretty good one. Nelson Fernandez writes, some say humans also exist through all possible dimensions at once. Yeah, it's possible. Hey, Armin Asterian. Good to see you. My grandfather depressed enter on accident. Okay. Okay, so Armin Asterian's ready. My grandfather made a painting of two giant praying mantis beings with disco ball heads lowering down Jesus from the cross. In the background is the Petra. The sky seems apocalyptic. Interesting. Under Fire 987 is asking Mac Mazda, are you still on? I'm curious if you're someone who made a report of a certain past life as a reptilian. I can answer that. I interviewed him. Yeah, he claims that, and it came up in a regression, in hypnotic regression, where he had lived a past life doing that. But he may have already answered by the time I got to that comment. Overlander BC is writing, it would be way, way more of a coincidence if the praying mantis insects here didn't have a connection to the mantis beings. The odds of two very distant planets making nearly identical species is slim, or they've always been here, Overlander BC. I'm more. I think it's closer to something like that, but who knows? All right, Under Fire 987 is responding to Himala Max. Dreams are more real than we think. Some seem to be very random, but there's a lot seem to be other places we go when we sleep, astral projecting. Tom Hastings, welcome. Tom writes, Sean, this is my first time tuning in, and I'm really enjoying it. I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you. Okay, so Underfile 987. Okay, if you or Mac Mazda has a way of contacting him, I would be very interested in talking to him. But no, it's Mac Mazda. Like it's Mac. Mac is the one. If you directly reach out to Mac, he should be able to tell you about that. So, all right, let's get back to it. I'm almost. I just skipped a comment, I think. Yeah, Fast Mama Jama, that is very good, very wise advice. Always write down your dreams. We are like mirror reflections of our true self, according to some. Yeah, you'll also start to recognize precognition. That's where it gets really weird if you start to write some of that stuff down. Spiritual Assumption is writing, all extraterrestrial species look alive, are tied to the animals you see in our planet because Earth is a storehouse library for genetics. Could be. Yeah, overlaid. Yeah, they could be terrestrial from the other dimension. Yet on this, yeah, it could be something like that. But who knows? All right, let's get back to our. I just want to check one thing. Let's get back to our scheduled programming. Oops, sorry, just bear with me. I'm just checking one thing. Okay. All right. Back to it. Any other comments? Okay. So let me put this down below. So if you're enjoying this, it's your first time or whatever, please like, please subscribe. I've the last 4 months, my views have like taken a dive, and it's directly correlated to how many times YouTube shows impressions of my channel, which have those are where the dive is taken. All my other metrics have been pretty steady. So, please like and support the channel. It will help out, and it costs, it costs all of you nothing. So, I appreciate you all spending your Sunday night with me and going through these deep dives. All right, so with that, let us continue. In recent years, with the surge of UFO disclosures and whistleblower claims, mantid aliens have even been mentioned by a few individuals with military or intelligence backgrounds. It's one thing for civilian abductees to describe bug like aliens, it's another when former service members or aerospace insiders hint at similar creatures. We must approach these stories with healthy skepticism, but they are part of the mantid lore tapestry. A notable case surfaced in 2023-2024 around a U.S. Army veteran named John Blitch, a Special Forces Green Beret slash Task Force or Operational Detachment Delta retiree, who publicly described a face-to-face encounter with a mantis-like being. In an interview conducted by journalist Ross Coulthart, Blitch claims that one night he awoke to find a 7-foot-tall, praying mantis-looking entity standing in his bedroom. This was on the third floor of his house, and the creature had somehow come in via a closed sliding glass door that led to a high deck. He realized the being must have passed through the solid door or otherwise bypassed physical entry, already suggesting something beyond our normal physics. Understandably, Blitch was terrified. He found himself paralyzed in bed, unable to move or reach for a weapon. The mantid gave off a stern male presence and was upset with him, as if scolding him telepathically. Then, in a remarkable turn, the being communicated a message. Blitch described it, explaining to him, essentially, that humans are more than their bodies. Quote, look, this body you've got is just a machine that your soul occupies for this lifetime, end quote. The mantid said to him matter-of-factly. It used an analogy a mechanic might use. Blitch recalled it saying something like, quote, we're going to get up under the hood. We may swap a couple of parts out, but we can't steal you. We can't steal your soul or your consciousness, end quote. The being then firmly instructed him, so quit screaming and writhing around and let's do our job, end quote. In other words, it was about to perform some kind of procedure on him, perhaps medical or experimental, and it wanted him to stop panicking. It justified the invasive act by asserting it could not harm his true essence, his soul, and was only interested in the machine of his body. Blitch's encounter, if true, is a chilling example of how these alleged aliens rationalize their abductions. The being's tone was described as simultaneously authoritative and oddly reassuring, like a doctor calming an hysterical patient, albeit a doctor that looked like a giant insect. After this encounter, Blitch, like many others, reported a profound shift in his worldview, essentially confirming to him that non-human intelligences are real and interacting with us. Blitch's testimony echoes elements from other whistleblower-type accounts. Over the years, a handful of former military or intelligence personnel have hinted at knowledge of multiple alien species known to governmental insiders. And occasionally, the mantids are on those lists. For instance, Canada's former Minister of Defense, Paul Hellyer, famously claimed that 4 species of extraterrestrials were visiting Earth. In interviews, he even referenced a praying mantis type among them. Hellyer learned of these only through others' reports, but he believed them enough to speak publicly. Another insider, Sergeant Clifford Stone, who alleges he was on U.S. crash retrieval teams, said the military had cataloged dozens of alien species. While he didn't publicly enumerate them all, many believe insectoid entities were part of that roster. Even the realm of remote viewing and psychic spies touched on this. In the 1980s, some remote viewers, as part of the Army's Stargate program, reportedly viewed alien beings. One being described an encounter with a mantis type during an out-of-body probe. These are anecdotal and hard to verify, but they contributed to a sort of background buzz that mantis aliens are part of the UFO phenomena, not just one-off figments. As sensational as such stories are, none of them constitute hard evidence. We must remember that to date, no physical proof of a mantid being has been produced. No body, no clear photograph, nothing that science can examine. What we have are patterns of testimony. When so many unrelated people describe nearly identical giant insect humanoids, it's difficult to dismiss it outright. Could it be a kind of culturally influenced archetype or myth that people subconsciously draw upon? Possibly. The image of the praying mantis alien has certainly filtered into pop culture in TV shows such as Ancient Aliens, which have featured it, for example. But interestingly, reports of mantids predate most pop cultural references, going back to the 1960s and 70s, quietly, and exploding in the 80s and 90s in abductee transcripts that were not often public. One theory posits that if these beings are real, they might be highly advanced evolutionary offshoots of insects, perhaps from another planet where insectoids became the dominant intelligent form. It's true that praying mantises on Earth are extraordinary predators with a kind of alien beauty. One can imagine a planet of giant mantis-like creatures that developed technology. Some scientists have speculated on convergent evolution and how life elsewhere might resemble life here in weird ways. A large-brained mantis with language and culture is not biologically impossible, especially if augmented by some genetic engineering, which mantids themselves are accused of doing to others. Another hypothesis is that they are artificial beings, like living biotechnological constructs. Their somewhat drone-like behavior and hive hierarchy could hint that they were engineered, either by themselves or another race, for specific tasks like running the hybrid breeding program. They might even be an evolved form of greys. Some abductees say the greys seem to be subordinate drones that lack individual spark, whereas the mantids have more personality or autonomy. Perhaps mantids are what greys aspire to become, or vice versa, in some life cycle we can't possibly grasp. In UFO lore, reptilian aliens often get cast as the villains, and greys as the foot soldiers. Mantids occupy an ambiguous middle ground. Sometimes they're described working with reptilians, other times as distinct and higher in rank. There are claims that mantids and reptilians collaborate in underground bases and genetic projects, combining their strengths, the cold intellect of the mantids, with the cunning force of the reptile, so to speak. These claims are unverified, but it does show that within the mythology, mantids are generally seen as planners and observers, not the ones getting their claws dirty with grunt work or conquest. Even their attitude in abductions, often calm, collected, and analytical, differs from the more directly menacing reputation of reptilians or the robotic coldness of greys. Stepping back, what do we make of the mantid beings? On the one hand, they could be viewed as a modern myth or psychological phenomenon, a vivid symbol arising from the human psyche under stress. Perhaps the ultimate image of the other, an intelligent being utterly unlike us, insectoid and unrelatable. On the other hand, if even a fraction of these accounts are taken at face value, then we are dealing with a truly non-human intelligence that has been interacting with humanity in secret. The mantids force us to confront notions of alien life that go beyond the familiar little green men or ethereal angelic guides. These are highly evolved insect beings with motivations that might be far removed from human concerns. The narratives, taken together, portray mantids as complex characters in the cosmic drama. They can be clinical researchers, treating us like lab animals. They can be teachers, imparting ecological warnings or spiritual insights. They can be engineers, tinkering with DNA and probing consciousness itself. They might be guardians, sent to observe and subtly steer us, or conversely, invaders slowly implementing a longer-term agenda. Perhaps they are all of the above. Different factions or individuals might have different intentions, much as humans do. There are, however, intriguing common threads across the stories. In physical descriptions, they align closely. Tall, insectoid, mantis-like head, etc. They often appear in abduction scenarios with gray aliens, usually in a leadership or supervisory role. Telepathic communication is universal, and often they attempt to soothe the human, though not always successfully. Many experiencers report being shown holographic images of Earth's future or other educational visions by Mantids. A significant number feel that the Mantids are concerned with our environment and nuclear weapons, almost in a monitoring capacity. Encounters often have a deeply emotional or spiritual impact on people, sometimes terrifying, sometimes enlightening. Fear of death is reduced for some, psychic abilities enhanced, worldview shattered, and rebuilt. The hierarchical hive motif is prevalent. The idea that mantids and greys operate with a collective consciousness or hive mind. Even a channeled entity, Bashar, once responded to a question about mantids, leading greys by explaining it's more like they all share one group mind. One single entity, different components may have different abilities to organize the information within the one and the mantis is a higher order organizational aspect. In other words, the mantids might literally be the queens or central nodes of a hive mind that includes the greys. Technologically, they appear very advanced, not in a flashy way with gadgets, but in a way that blurs into what we'd call psychic or magical, walking through walls, levitating people or objects, morphing appearance. Some abductees even claim that mantids can project a human guise or shapeshift when needed, and manipulating time or memory. Many abductees only recall their encounters under hypnosis, suggesting their memories were deliberately blocked, perhaps by the mantids. Okay. So, are the mantids benevolent space sages, here to help humanity ascend and not destroy itself? Are they cosmic biologists, following a prime directive of non-interference, except in their laboratories? Or are they harvesters, quietly studying and maybe even farming us for purposes we can scarcely imagine? The honest answer is we don't know. We have stories and subjective experiences, which each of us must evaluate. For some experiencers, contact with mantids was life-changing in a good way. They lost their fear of death, gained a sense of purpose, or felt they understood the interconnectedness of life. For others, it was traumatic, a recurring nightmare of being helpless on a table under the gaze of a giant insect, leaving psychological scars. It's possible that, like humans, these entities have individuals along the spectrum, some more benevolent or curious, others more indifferent or even hostile. Or perhaps they simply are, operating on a logic beyond simple moral dualities, pursuing their objectives, scientific, environmental, spiritual, with a detachment that can feel cold or caring depending on the context. In the end, the mantid aliens occupy a fascinating niche in ufology and the paranormal. They challenge our imagination. If intelligent life can look like that, then the universe truly is full of surprises. They force the question of whether consciousness can reside in forms wildly different from our own mammalian, warm-blooded makeup. An insect that might that might meditate on the stars. And if any of these accounts hold true, the mantids also raise profound questions about our place in the cosmic order. Are we specimens in their lab, co-creators in some grand experiment, or perhaps simply neighbors they find interesting enough to visit every now and then? As we conclude, remember that in this field, we're dealing with the unknown, It's okay to enter the possibilities and also remain skeptical. The mantid beings could be a modern mythos that helps people process experiences of trauma or the unknown. Or they could be one of the most important others we have yet to truly meet. For now, they remain elusive, appearing in the dead of night to a chosen few, and disappearing just as enigmatically. Until the day comes that a mantid being steps into the public light, if ever, we're left with these tantalizing, eerie, and sometimes inspiring stories. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the lore of the mantid aliens. Stay curious, keep your mind open, but not so open that your brain falls out, as the saying goes. And as always, keep watching the skies and maybe the ceiling corner of your bedroom at night. You never know what might be observing you in return. All right, that completes the prepared portion of this show. So, let's see, where do we leave off? Wow. Okay, so Spiritual Ascensions writing, primarily manta beings are high vibrational and reside in higher dimensions. However, there have been sects known to assist with the dark agenda. Interesting. Okay, so Julian Dorian said we are the ones drawing at the end of the short stick, kind of unaware of everything else. Who knows? Very nice. Tom Hastings reports he's had a pet praying mantis. Everything got quiet, kind of when I needed it to go nuts, because I'm got through all my content, folks. So, what do folks want to talk about now? Yeah, Drew writes, "We live in a bad neighborhood of the galaxy." It's possible, or we're kind of like on a off the spiral arm, so we might be far enough away that we're not where all the collisions are happening near the center. I would presume. I have not listened to Ted Rice, but I would love to interview Ted Rice. I just have no idea how to contact him. By the way, for Americans, tomorrow is Memorial Day. Just as a reminder, as you're enjoying your day off and all that good stuff. Oh well, sorry, I'll get back to that. Fast Member Gemma is writing crazy stuff going on with rare earth minerals and helium-3. Yeah, there's like that General Stephen Quast or whatever interview on Sean Ryan, the Sean Ryan show, who's saying that they might be mining helium-3 on the far side of the moon. Yeah, that's not great. Spiritual Ascensions writing, the Mantids are mostly running off a positive agenda. They generally visit humans that have heavy Mantids DNA, which is why reports of them are limited. What are some good Mantis encounter stories? I don't know off the top of my head. Corey Fro. Yeah. Gray House writing, you should see if you could get Justin, what's his name, that I sent you as an experiment with both X-rays, abducting him, and my labs. Yeah, I could take a look. Hey Jesse, good to see you. So Greer tried to show a picture of a mantis being he took in Arizona. Couldn't really tell with the picture. Yeah, who knows with Greer. I think his motivations were of the highest integrity at the beginning. Now I don't know. It's just hard to. If he's working with Ron Pandolfi, he's probably part of an op. Unfortunately. So Overlander BC writes, there's certainly said to be a hierarchical pecking order among the NHI here. It seems the Mantids and the reptilians are at the top, perhaps even above Nordics. So if the Nordics are essentially humans, here's a paid op period. Okay. What do I make of Mantids showing up in abductions, but also seen in the DMT realm? Probably they're multi-dimensional, Corey Fro. But again, just a random hypothesis. Who knows if they're the same beings or not? They're the same species. But anyway, just a reminder for folks from the US, tomorrow is Memorial Day. So as you're enjoying your day off, barbecue, all that good stuff, just remember it's not for veterans, it's for veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifice. So, just say a prayer for the souls of those veterans and also the families that lost them. So, because we quickly forget. Um, but you know, okay. Then where does that leave us? Why are Earth humans treated so different than Nordic humans? No idea. Yes, you should make some barbecue. Burgers outside on a grill are always a good idea. Always. All right. What if folks want to talk about? I should have made ChatGPT do more homework because that one was shorter than normal, and I knew it was going to be shorter than normal. Ugh. The birds, Scoot. What about the birds? What about them? So, like US expat said, I missed most of the show. Sorry. Are you having any of the remote viewers back on the show anytime soon, or Preston Denna? I need to reach out to Morehouse, and then Lynn Buchanan's always game. I just need to probably reach out to Morehouse today, maybe. Good night, Pavlos. Thanks for watching. Interesting. So, Spiritual Ascension writes, be wary of anything you see in the DMT realm, as you will mainly run into trickster beings. Ugh. Let's see how this is going. Wow. That's going pretty well, I think. Yeah. Jesse Roberts writes, seems to be a pretty good orb flap going around the Tucson area lately. Lots of sightings. Yeah, I think people have just stopped reporting them. That's how these things tend to go. Yeah, I think dimethyltryptamine is on everybody's bucket list at some point. Hmm. Spiritual ascension. What is everybody else? If I think you said it was like 5% of, or no, 15% was what you said last time. Was the percentage of real fire creation beings? Is that does it mean 85% of the people we see are just soulless, or are there gradations? Yes, it's very very short. It's called a business trip. Yikes! The rest are clones, NPCs, or husks running off in inserted consciousness. Yikes! NPCs. Hmm. Scoot writes substances are overrated. You don't need it. Just practice, and there are other methods such as fasting. All right. So Solite at US Expat is writing. I have good news for myself. The Indian Palm Leaf Reading Institute found my bundles, and I'll be finding out if I have a leaf this Wednesday, which means I'll have a reading. Congrats. I don't know what that means, but they, the background people, the shop attendant, the gas station dude. Yep. Thank you, Gray Owl. So Gray Owl writes, "Hey Sean, love that you have the Witster coming back on the channel." Yeah. So in the second week of June, I have an interview with Whitley Strieber dropping again. It's a good one. As we talk a lot about a lot of stuff that we have that I haven't really heard him talk too much about in other interviews. Thaddeus. Oh, happy Memorial Day. Thaddeus, I guess, is the inimitable John Stewart. Yeah, happy Memorial Day, brother. Thank you. Yeah. If you listen, okay, so Gray Al's writing. If you listen to what Hal Puthoff was saying in the Rogan interview and what the Lee is saying in this interview, they are really taking some shots as best they can, I suppose, at the system of secrecy and how it serves not the interests of the American people, not the world at large, not scientific advance, nor does it help society, or it's a cancer. Yeah, but I think they're part of the op too. Yeah. Spiritual ascension writes, you will generally know a soulless being as they have zero capacity to be able to wake up and are heavily conformed to the matrix programming and are unswayable. Interesting. All right. So DS is writing, Kurt Metzger is a very funny comedian that is really into aliens, very based. He does podcasts with like 900 subscribers. Kurt Metzger. Maybe I should take a look at him. Soulite at US Expat is writing, I've learned that if there is a leaf, that means I'm an old soul and that this will be my last incarnation on Earth or second to last incarnation left, but need to ask about this more. Interesting. Yeah. Fast Memo Gemma says Strieber said he is only telepathic with Grays. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Right? Who knows? We do talk about the 2026 and 2027 events. So do tune in for that. All right, what else do folks want to talk about? Eesh. I'm running out of gas, folks. Please help. All right, Jesse Roberts says, Sean, you seem to have a good niche on animals and the phenomenon. You should talk to more Yes, I've been trying to find. Like, I don't even know where to look. Like, I've been thinking about this for months. Um, they're hazel. Good question. Spiritual ascension. So, Sean, off topic. Are your eyes brown or blue? Neither. They're hazel, which is even rarer, apparently. Yeah, Whitley does get it. Okay. What about maybe getting someone who can actually communicate with animals? There are people who can do that. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I had a today was weird. I finally got a chance to go out and hike because it's a 3-day weekend. I kind of like finally was able to extract myself from my desk, and there were all sorts of like squirrels and ground squirrels like checking me out. Like, I mean, it was weird. It was eerie. And then when I came home, there was one that was just like sitting on his perch, right, like in front of, like right to the next to my door, like looking at me. I'm like, what was that all about? It was just weird. I mean, it happened like 10 times. Just it's super weird. And then of course, like very two like very close sighting of a raven, very close sighting of a hawk when I went out there. Yeah, Scoot's probably right. Everybody can communicate with animals. Really? They've never. I mean, as far as I know, they've never been blue. Well, hazel eyes do change color, right? Because it's like a mix of green, gold, and brown. So I am Lynn Schuster. I am a intuitive Reiki master. A lot of things to be, though. Lynn Schuster. Spiritual ascension. Why do you ask about the eye color thing? I mean, if you zoom in, you probably tell. But by the way, I didn't know my eyes were hazel either until my wife told me. Ah, the green gold is very dry, high light resonance. But I mean, like literally, my wife has told me that in the past, and it just never registered until recently. So I always thought they were brown, but they're not. So Josh 1 billion writes, I believe it was Robert Monroe who said telepathy is the natural language of the universe. Could be. Could absolutely be. I don't think I ever recall them being blue. Huh. Fascinating. So when I look at them, they change from light brown, yellow to green, blue. Hmm. I mean, it could just be the lighting that I use. So Josh 1 billion saying, Sean, who would you say has been your favorite guest interview on your show so far? Ooh, well, I shouldn't say guest because I wouldn't want to offend other guests. Um, I would say the most interesting for me, that I at least probably did the most preparation for, was when I interviewed Avi Loeb. Because after the interview, he kind of told me, he's just like, that was probably the best or one of the best interviews I've had with a podcaster. Because I read his papers and then I looked at the elements that he was studying and was able to use ChatGPT to derive some conclusions about what those elements would be. And I think he was impressed by that. My parents went insane after some poltergeist. It won't keep them as pets again. Interesting. That's not good. That your bird always goes into attack mode with your son, Fast Mama Jamma. You guys are into African grays. I don't even know what African grays are. So Spiritual Ascension writes, I try to spread truth and information to anyone who wants to know or hear it. However, a lot of lower frequency beings get highly offended by my truth, so the listeners are far and few between. Interesting. By the way, where's Jalea Jalal? Where's she? I haven't seen her tonight. Probably busy. Oh, she's. I mean, you mean woke in a good way. He's like awakening. Let's just. I had a reaction to that initially that I'm not going to talk about. Uh, but yes, she's awakened, um, in the truest nature of that. She's on vacay. Okay, huh? There's a guy I've seen. So Jesse Roberts writes. There's a guy I've seen named Jungle Savani. He's a Sami shaman, Northern Europe. He spent time in the Amazon learning these shamanic traditions to uh, incorporate. Has a few so he sounds like a, what is it? Can't remember what it is. Like that's like in Finland, right? Like a Locklander or Laplander. That's what I'm thinking. Sammy sounds like a Laplander name. Oh boy. I was just watching a show where they were interviewing like a spirit medium, or not spirit medium, like a channeler. And she said that it was like bathing in low frequency entities, like reptilian beings or something, whatever that means. Yep. Well, they are. They definitely are. Right now, it has the worst possible connotations. Um, but I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to. This is not a political show. It's not meant to be. Whereabouts in Australia? So Spiritual Ascension is writing I'm in Australia, by the way. Oops. Sorry, I like jumped way ahead. Holding down the spiritual fort in this neck of the woods. Okay, Sydney. Very nice. Yeah, that's fair. Oh wow. So Josh 1 billion writes, some lady went viral on TikTok earlier this year saying a Ouija board warned her in 2013 about a nuclear strike on May 27th, 2025. Spooky with the Iran Israel thing in the news. I really hope not. I really hope not. Okay. Hopefully all the craziness calms down at some point. Your forecasting group talked about something hard coming down too. Yeah. Who knows? The thing is, though, if you have a high volume of these predictions, right, only a few of them need to come true and you look like a rock star, but 90% of them could be wrong. So who knows? By the way, I haven't seen or heard from owls in a while, and I'm a little sad about it. Fred writes, "Have you watched the Three Body Problem show?" Yeah, I've seen it. It's definitely interesting. It's definitely an interesting premise. Soul Essentials writing, "We are fine and everything will be fine. Don't feed into negativity. Keep yourself vibrating high. Ignore the fear porn. We are divinely protected and guided." Yeah, there's definitely truth in that. Spiritual Ascension writes, "Things will get worse before they get better. Trust the process." Yeah, Spiritual Ascension, that my whole life has been, like from a geopolitical standpoint, I'm always like very close to whatever craziness is happening. Unfortunately. I don't like it being that way, but it is what it is. Yeah, I just want some peace. I just want to be able to like relax and enjoy life for once, as opposed to just fighting. Okay, so Jesse Roberts writes, yes, Sami are in Finland, but do not consider themselves Finnish because they were persecuted by that government. That might. Well, I mean, just Lapland is in Finland. Is all I'm saying. Like it's in that general vicinity. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I just wish I had time to relax. Oh my god. Indeed. Crave gnosis. Indeed. Indeed. Oh man, I am running out of gas. I am rapidly running out of gas. But I still got 12 minutes to because I say I'm gonna be on for 2 hours, I'm gonna be on for 2 hours. So but I need to add more material because this time I ran out. I'm gonna experiment with something. I don't even know what I'm putting. What was that? Huh. The bugaball. Oh yeah, there's like some frequency emitted from it or something. That's kind of weird. Show comments on stage. Like, what does that mean? Oh, there we go. Or the new crop circle from England. Yep. Which is also weird. I want to see how long these comments stay. I'm just experimenting. There's like some instructions on it. That's weird. Yeah, so I guess it just imprints the stuff on the right. All right. I don't want to like memorialize you all forever on that. So where do they suggest this bugaball came from again? That's fair. I feel like the missing ingredient of this deep dive, Sean, is your opinion and comments on the topic. Well, look, people certainly report seeing these things, so there's some truth to them. I just there's just not enough evidence to suggest whether or not they're projections from some higher order intelligence, if they're real beings from another world, or if they're kind of interdimensional beings. I tend toward the interdimensional hypothesis, but who knows? Colombia. Oh, that's where it's from. Instructions on how to play bugaball. Spiritual Ascension writes, Sean, do you have any idea where your soul originates or what percentage of extraterrestrial DNA you have? I have absolutely no clue. I wouldn't even know where I would find that information. None, like no idea whatsoever. I am in complete and total ignorance on that topic. I wish I knew of a way where I could ask and understand, but no dice for me. No dice. If you have any insights, I am always open ear and open mind. Yeah, it could be. There could be all sorts of stuff floating around me right now that we don't see. Interesting. So, spiritual ascension is ready. You can train yourself to access the akasha, or you can go to someone who can. Yeah, I'm just not. Have never had that experience. The only strange stuff that happens to me is uh what you call it. Why am I not remember? Synchronicities happen constantly. Recently, I've been seeing sorts of all these combinations of 808, 818, 828, 838, 858. Um, and then other palindromic numbers. Tell me more what Earth Angel vibes mean. All right. Happy hunting, Jesse, in a friendly way. Jesse's going out, heading to a walk in the desert and looking for UAPs. Pleiadian warrior lineage. I can believe that. I can definitely believe that. What else can you tell me? Spiritual ascension. Ugh. All right, so spiritual ascension is writing. Earth angels are here to assist with the mass awakening. They are defenders, truth speakers, protectors, and beings of justice. Yeah, that definitely resonates. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. He's talked about that before. Adventures writes Sean. The next time David Morehouse is on, mention RV exercises called Open Search Inward and Open Search Outward. I believe you will find this interesting. Yeah, it was like a remote viewing that he had students do, particularly Open Search Inward. And I mean, obviously, it's a remote viewing target. They wouldn't know what they were remote viewing. They would have to discover it, but it was basically about themselves. What? Solite US expat wrote, I just met a guy from Afghanistan here in Korea from the Kandahar region. I used ChatGPT to communicate with him in Dari. I asked him about the stories of the red-headed giants in that area, and he said yes. Yikes. Okay, I also get Lyran DNA from you also. Is that like feline or something like that? Feline kind of Lyran? Okay, so he said he had heard about the stories. I asked if he ever saw one, his parents or grandparents, and he said no. Interesting. Okay, so spiritual ascensions writing the Lyran and Palladian have come through in this lifetime from your service. Huh. Okay, so yes, the Lyrans are feline beings. Hmm. Interesting. I'm still astonished people are watching at this point because I'm not really doing any work here, telling any stories. Or not stories, but do it like the deep dives long since been over. So if you're still watching, thank you. I appreciate you. Okay, the Lyrans. Spiritual Ascension's writing the Lyrans hold the original divine human blueprint. Interesting. Okay, so spiritual ascension's writing Avion, the cradle of life, or Avion. Not sure if either way is pronounced correctly, but spiritual ascension again writes it was the original blueprint humans that were tampered with by the Anunnaki. Again, if you're enjoying this or you enjoyed it earlier when I was actually doing my deep dive, please hit like and subscribe, share it. Actually, sharing helps a great deal. So please share this so that many more people can subscribe. And I would love to do something like this full time, but I agree. Fred, it's a great community. Thank you all for sticking with me for this long. Timepiece Adventures writes, have a great weekend, everyone. Heading out for a walk. Great show, Sean. Thank you, Timepiece Adventures. Much appreciated. Indie Spect is writing, what do you think of James Fowler saying the government is using Skywatcher to disclose classified science from decades ago? I They might be, they might not be. I've given up on government at this point in every sense of the word. I've given up completely. I'll pay my taxes, but they're tyrants. It's like hopelessly corrupt, and disclosure's not coming from there. All right, so spiritual ascension is writing Avion is the constellation Lyra. The planet was destroyed by the Draco Wars. I was taping an ice cream patty or paddle to my pinky. It broke a few months ago. Yikes. No, I don't. Neither here nor there against. I don't think Trump can. There's nothing he can do to like stop the corruption. Like the corruption's always gonna be there. So I never had. I mean, I never had any love for Trump. I just had. I just think the other side was. Um, what's the word for it? Was basically leading us down a path of what's the word? Not destruction, but like devolution, like extinction. That's it. Like they were literally leading us down the path of extinction, and I wasn't having it. I was not having it. Yes, they were like significantly more evil, significantly more evil. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Like I don't like the only affinity I have with Trump is he's not as bad as the other side. That's it. He's still bad in other ways, but like he's not remotely as dark as those people were. Yeah, 100%. So, all right. Good night, everybody. It's time for me to say adieu. So, thank you very much, and see you all next week.